Now to the Hillary Clinton email scandal. A new report by the State Department Inspector General says Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State violated department policies. Joining me now, two members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. Here in Washington, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, and in Oklahoma, Republican Senator James Lankford. So, gentlemen, the way I want to structure this is to show what Clinton said and then what the Inspector General's report concluded. And first, on the issue of whether or not Clinton's exclusive use of private email and a personal server was allowed.
It was allowed under the rules of the State Department. And again...
So nobody signed off on it?
No, it was allowed.
But here's what the report from the Inspector General said. OIG, Office of Inspector General, found no evidence that the Secretary requested or obtained guidance or approval to conduct official business via a personal email account on her private server. Senator Lankford.
Yeah, that's entirely accurate. She didn't go try to get permission. She didn't, if she would have asked permission, the Inspector General said she would not have received that. Since 2002, the State Department has not even allowed employees to be able to forward on from a private email to their official one because they said it wasn't secure. So this is an established issue, has been established a long time for the State Department. You cannot do this.
Congressman Schiff, it actually gets worse than that. When two members of the State Department's record-keeping division complained about this, expressed concern, a superior instructed them this way. He instructed the staff never to speak of the Secretary's personal email again. That's a quote from the OIG report. Congressman Clinton never got approval.
No, she was mistaken about that. She thought that it was approved, that the practice was allowed, and she was wrong. The report also makes clear that Secretary Powell also thought it was appropriate to use a personal server, private server.
Not true. That is not true, and I had a feeling you're going to call me on that, and let's discuss it right now.
I am going to call you on that.
Secretary Powell had two computers in his office. He used one, a government computer, for classified information. He had a separate computer for private emails. Some of those included business, State Department business, but he did have a separate Office of the State Department Secretary of State computer.
He had a laptop, a State Department laptop, which the OIG report says he never used for email, not for official business.
That's not what Secretary Powell said.
The OIG report says that he used personal email exclusively for all of his official email business. And the OIG also says that when the Secretary Powell was asked to provide...
Let me ask you another question.
Let me just
ask you this, though. Did he ever use a private server?
He did use a private server. It wasn't his own private server. It was a server owned presumably by America Online. But he used exclusively a private server.
But you just said he had a laptop that was in the State Department.
Let me make one other point, which is I think, very critical, which is the OIG also found that the retention by Secretary Clinton of her emails, the fact that she provided 55,000 pages of emails, mitigated the fact that she used a private server. In the case of Secretary Powell, there was no mitigation. None of those emails were turned over. So the person who was Secretary of State during the decision to go to war in Iraq did not preserve any of his emails, one of the most consequential decisions in recent history. That, to me, is far more consequential than the fact that the Secretary did preserve them and turn them over.
When did Secretary Clinton leave the State Department?
I believe it was in 2012 or 13.
It was January of 2013. Do you know when she turned over the 55,000 pages?
After she left office, and she was requested by the State Department.
It was December of 2014. Yes. It was 2 years later.
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right.
Okay, let me just bring in...
But let me ask you this.
I have to bring in Senator Lankford. This idea of comparing it to Secretary Powell.
Yeah, I've heard this over and over again. It is apples and oranges. What Secretary Clinton did was she kept a private server in her home. This was all about her political security, not about national security. It was about retaining and controlling all these records, and she still has not turned over all these emails. And I keep hearing these large numbers. She's turned over 55,000 pages. Well, wonderful. The Inspector General's report, when you read it, says that there were emails from David Petraeus that they found on the Department of Defense website that were to Hillary Clinton in David Petraeus's official email that she had sent that were never turned over. So we still don't know what it is. She self-filtered all these emails and said these are official and these are not, and we still don't have those.
All right. Excuse me for interrupting both of you, but I want to move on to another subject. There's also the security of the information that Clinton kept on her private email server. Here is Clinton.
There were no security breaches.
But the IG report found in January of 2011, a technical support staffer shut down the server twice because, quote, someone was trying to hack us. The next day, a top State Department official told Clinton's staff not to email the secretary anything sensitive. Now, in her defense, Senator Langford, Clinton says there's no evidence anybody actually got into her server.
Well, that is the defense that no one got in, but Ken, that's something you cannot know. Right now, we have about 1,300 plus emails that are at some level of classification from what we have and what we know of right now. Many of them top secret. That is a major problem. You do not keep that. The issue is she willfully retained information on a non-secure server that was separate from the government system that she knew was classified or that should have known was classified and kept that in a non-secure location. That is a major national security breach that no other cabinet level official did. And all this talk about Colin Powell and everything else, no other cabinet official in the Obama administration did what she did. Everyone else seemed to understand the rules but her, but she seemed to prioritize her political security over national security.
Congressman Schiff, one, we had never heard about these attempted attacks until the IG's report, so that's new. Two, if the server was so secure, why did they have to keep turning it off? And three, as Senator Langford points out, you don't always know if somebody has a successful attack because hackers don't leave fingerprints.
No, that's true. What we do know from the OIG report is that there were a couple attempts to hack into the system that were unsuccessful. So we don't know that there's any evidence of a successful breach. But I do want to get back to the point that I wanted to finish and that Senator Langford mentioned, and that is the comparison with Secretary Powell is...
Come on, can we... Wait, forgive me.
No,
forgive me.
You told me you would allow me to push back, and I want to push back.
I'm sorry. Hillary Clinton's running for president. Colin Powell is not running for president. The rules in 2004 were completely different. They're completely different guidelines. Sir, the guidelines were repeatedly strengthened in 2005, in 2006, in 2011. Hillary Clinton was operating in a different world. Can we please stay to the issue of what Hillary Clinton did or didn't do and not talk about Colin Powell?
Well, I know you don't want to talk about Colin Powell because
it's irrelevant to the issue.
It isn't irrelevant in this sense. If you please let me finish.
How can she say it was secure when they had to turn off the server because there were attacks?
Chris, the rules...
Could you answer my question?
I will. I will answer the question. She should not have used the private server. She's admitted she should not have used the private server. Look, we know from the OIG report that there were 2 attempts to breach the server that were unsuccessful. That's what we know. But please let me at least finish the point.
Not on Powell. Forgive me, I'm going to keep going.
Well,
we're done with Colin Powell.
I think it's very telling.
We're done with Colin Powell.
Okay.
Well, then we'll move on.
I think it's very telling, though, Chris, that there's no interest in anyone here but Secretary Clinton. That, to me,
really? Because she's the only one running for president.
Yes, but does that mean that other secretaries didn't use the same practice, that their practices are irrelevant
I think, first of all, we've shown that it is different, and secondly, I think it's frankly a red herring, sir, and I expect more from you. From the start, Clinton said that she would cooperate with any investigation. Here she is, just last month.
We made clear that I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have, and I stand by that.
But here is the Inspector General's report. All right, let's talk about Powell and Powell Standard here, Congressman. OIG interviewed Secretary Kerry and former Secretaries Albright, Powell, and Rice. Through her counsel, Secretary Clinton declined OIG's request for an interview. Congressman Schiff, what happened to answering anybody's questions at any time?
But now you bring up Secretary Powell.
Oh, come on. Yes. Did he agree to an interview? He agreed to an interview. Why did he agree to an interview and Secretary Clinton not?
Okay. I don't know why Secretary Clinton...
Do you think she should have agreed to an interview?
I think she certainly could have agreed to the interview.
Should she have agreed to an interview?
She's going to be meeting with the Department of Justice, and if there are any remaining questions, she can answer them. But let me say this.
Why shouldn't she speak to the Inspector General of her own department?
Chris, you brought up Secretary Powell this time.
I brought it up in the fact that he spoke to them and cooperated with the investigation, and she did not.
You did not bring up the fact that when Secretary Powell was asked to provide whatever emails he retained or to work with the private provider of those emails to provide them, he did not respond and still has not responded to the IG. You did not bring that up.
Okay, so now, you know what? I'm not going to vote for Colin Powell for president this time.